Bonjour à tous. Thank you all for joining us this morning for this very important announcement here at the Port of Vancouver. And I'm speaking here today on the traditional territories of the Tsawwassen and Coast Salish peoples. And we are very fortunate to be able to live, work, play, and learn on their traditional territories. I'm Parm Bains. I'm your MC for today, and I'm the Member of Parliament for Richmond East, Steveston. It's a great pleasure to be here with my dear friends and colleagues, and to welcome our dear friend and colleague from Ontario, Quebec, sorry. You know, someone who deeply cares about all of us here in British Columbia, and we're really pleased to have him here today to deliver some good news for us today. So thank you for all joining us, and Minister MacKinnon, Steve MacKinnon, please join us for sharing some information. Thank you.
Thanks, Parm. Good morning, everyone. Thank you to whoever organized this amazing day here in Chief Cassidy's community. And Chief, thank you for welcoming us to your home. And it's an amazing day, and it's a day of great celebration for this part of our country, for the Lower Mainland, for British Columbia, but especially for Canada. Around the world, supply chains are evolving, trade patterns are shifting, and competition for investment is intensifying. Now, Canada must and will respond by strengthening the infrastructure that connects our businesses to global markets, supports good jobs, and grows the economy. And that means investing in modern trade corridors that move goods efficiently and diversify Canada's trade. Today, we are taking a very important step towards achieving that goal. Now, the Port of Vancouver is Canada's largest port, and to say that actually minimizes its importance, because it is about the same size as the next 5 Canadian ports combined, the next 5 largest Canadian ports. It facilitates $350 billion in trade annually with 170 countries, 169 of them with which we want to double our trade. It is Canada's gateway to the Indo-Pacific region, connecting Canadian businesses to fast-growing markets across Asia and the Indian subcontinent. In 2025, the port handled a record 170 million metric tons of cargo, facilitating $1 in every $3 of Canada's non-US trade, and 40% of our trade in goods beyond North America. At a time when Canada is diversifying trade and strengthening its economic security, this gateway has never been more important. À l'heure où le Canada diversifie ses échanges commerciaux et renforce sa sécurité économique, cette porte d'entrée n'a jamais été aussi importante. Bien qu'il soit situé ici dans les basses terres continentales, son succès soutient les entreprises, les travailleurs, les communautés, les Premières Nations à travers le pays. The Port of Vancouver truly is Canada's port. But aging infrastructure, rail bottlenecks, and limited industrial land are constraining future growth. To compete in a changing global economy, we need to invest now, so this gateway has the capacity and reliability Canadian exporters depend on. And to support that growth, we need to ensure a new and broader approach for environmental protections that encompass the region versus project by project and support the future growth of Canada's largest marine trading corridor. That's why I'm pleased to announce the referral of the Port of Vancouver Gateway Strategy, or the Gateway Strategy, to the Major Projects Office. And I want to shout out Don Farrell, the head of the Major Projects Office, who has joined us today. Donc, je suis heureux d'annoncer le renvoi de la stratégie de la porte d'entrée du port de Vancouver au bureau des grands projets. Et cela s'inscrit dans la continuité de l'accord de prospérité coopérative entre le Canada et la Colombie-Britannique, qui vise à revitaliser les ports et les corridors commerciaux de la province, tout en générant des retombées concrètes pour des personnes qui vivent et travaillent dans l'ensemble de cette région. So now the Gateway Strategy provides a coordinated approach to expanding capacity and improving the movement of goods and ensuring growth happens responsibly through partnerships with Indigenous nations and local communities. It supports Canada's goal of doubling exports to non-US markets by 2035. And just like the opening of the St. Lawrence Seaway, the Gateway Strategy represents the kind of nation-building infrastructure that will diversify trade and strengthen our economy for decades to come. At the heart of this transformative strategy are four main pillars to success. The first is Roberts Bank Terminal 2, or RBT2. Roberts Bank Terminal 2 is being referred to the MPO for potential listing under the Building Canada Act to provide regulatory certainty and future financial success. To date, RBT2 has undergone more than a decade of regulatory reviews. A decade, including a robust environmental assessment approval process and consultation with Indigenous groups led by the proponent, the Vancouver Fraser Port Authority, and you'll hear from the CEO in a moment. Listing RBT2 under the Act enables the Minister, my colleague Minister LeBlanc, the Minister of the One Canadian Economy, to bring RBT2 under one single regulatory window. And with RBT2 now being referred, the MPO will immediately begin consultations with potentially impacted Indigenous communities to inform the federal government's decision about whether to list RBT2 under the Act. And for those who are watching closely, this is the second such announcement. I was in Yellowknife some weeks ago to kick off with Minister Hodgson the work on the Deep Geological Repository, the nuclear waste storage facility in Northern Ontario, the Mackenzie Valley Highway, and the Grays Bay Port and Road. So as you can see, we are now in full motion with respect to getting big and in some cases decades old in terms of proposed projects, getting them done. The proposed project here is a 3-berth container terminal that will increase the Port of Vancouver's annual container capacity by almost 2.4 million 20-foot equivalent units. To put that into common language, this increase alone represents about 15% of what Canada's total container handling capacity will be once another major expansion at the Port of Contrecoeur dans ma province du Québec, once that project is completed. This will unlock more than $100 billion in annual trade capacity for our country, while contributing over $3 billion to Canada's GDP each year. And get this, over 17,000 ongoing jobs during operations across the supply chain. This will increase West Coast container handling capacity by approximately 30%, helping Canada accommodate future trade growth, strengthen supply chains, and avoid the capacity constraints. As Canada's primary marine gateway to the Indo-Pacific region, RBT2 will strengthen access to existing and emerging markets, while helping Canadian exporters move forest products, agri-food products, and other goods more efficiently. It will also support imports that Canadian businesses rely on by reducing congestion and improving reliability. RBT2 will strengthen Canada's reputation as a reliable trading nation, attract private investment, create good jobs, and ensure Canada has the infrastructure needed to seize new opportunities for decades to come. The Gateway Strategy will also identify, prepare, and develop industrial land for modern bulk export terminals, ensuring Canada has the infrastructure needed to support future growth in resource and agricultural exports. Dry and liquid bulk account for approximately 70% of the tonnage at the Port of Vancouver. And to double non-US trade by 2035, land for the construction of new modern terminals and other export-focused infrastructure needs to be secured. The opportunity for Canada's exporters is now. It includes investments to address rail congestion, improve supply chain infrastructure so goods can move more reliably and efficiently between the port and markets across Canada and around the world. And in partnership with the Class 1 Railways, the MPO, and Transport Canada are developing a rail infrastructure strategy to increase capacity and enhance supply chain efficiency, reliability, and resilience. And finally, the Government of Canada's environmental protections will serve as the fourth pillar of the Gateway strategy. These protections will ensure that future growth at the port occurs responsibly and prioritizes environmental protection throughout the region, reflecting Canada's commitment to support the protection, notably, of southern resident killer whales and coastal ecosystems. La protection des épaulards résidents du Sud est une priorité pour le gouvernement du Canada. C'est pourquoi nous renforçons les mesures visant à réduire le bruit sous-marin causé par les navires et les autres impacts liés à la navigation dans toute la région, pour favoriser le rétablissement à long terme de cette espèce tout en continuant de collaborer avec les nations autochtones et les communautés côtières pour respecter leurs liens avec les eaux. This funding complements the government's Pacific Salmon Strategy initiative to support the continued protection and recovery of wild Pacific salmon stocks, and the work being done through the Oceans Protection Plan to protect our coasts for future generations. Together, these initiatives contribute to the recovery of the species and the protection of coastal habitat, while helping major trade infrastructure projects move forward responsibly and strengthening the port as an integrated trade gateway. Now, as mentioned, the Government of Canada is initiating the process to continue listing RBT2 as being in the national interest under the Building Canada Act. Initiating the process for listing signals the path forward, creating greater certainty for proponents, investors, and communities. This does not mean a decision has been made to list the project under the Act, only that it is being considered. And before a decision is taken, consultations will be carried out with potentially impacted Indigenous rights holders and communities, and with provinces and territories to determine whether the project should be listed. The Act, as I remind you, provides a framework to advance major projects that are deemed to be of national interest by streamlining multiple federal decision points into one upfront decision and reducing timelines for the federal process. And listing RBT2 under the Building Canada Act aims to get the nation-building project built faster, more predictably, and more responsibly. The Gateway strategy recognizes that economic growth must go hand in hand with environmental stewardship and meaningful partnerships with Indigenous peoples, ensuring Indigenous nations share in the meaningful opportunities this work creates. So today's referral of the strategy to the Major Projects Office ensures these priorities move forward with coordinated oversight, project management, and regulatory review. And it also begins the process of potential listing of RBT2 as a project of national interest. Now, in conclusion, earlier this month, the Prime Minister was here in British Columbia to emphasize the importance of working with the province to build the infrastructure Canada needs for the future. I'm pleased that I can share another milestone in that work, but let me just punctuate a couple of things. We ask a lot of the people who live here to carry the load of being Canada's port, of being our gateway, of carrying so much of the products that we export to market, and of importing so many of the projects we need to have a successful economy and a quality of life. The agreement reached by the Prime Minister and the Premier seeks to also recognize that the people who live in British Columbia, including First Nations, must be rewarded in some respects and must also enjoy benefits from this kind of economic activity. This is an essential project for our country in so many ways. It is a nation-building project. It is perhaps the essence of a nation-building project. But it will provide jobs, opportunity, and hope for future generations. And those of us who are in public life want to leave things behind that make things better for the people that come after us. With the agreement of the Prime Minister and the Premier, with moving forward on getting these big things done, we will be helping ensure our country's prosperity and making our country's competitiveness a priority, but we will also be creating opportunity, hope, jobs, and activity and quality of life for the people of this province, of this region, for First Nations and generations to come. And that's why I'm so proud to have spent so much time making sure this project continues down its path. We have some work to do, but this is a big and important day. I mentioned the Seaway earlier. That is a good analog. This is the St. Lawrence Seaway of our generation. This is an essential project for our collective future in this country, and I'm so very proud to be able to be the minister here to announce another step along the way. Donc, merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. You know, as I look into the folks, the guests that are here joining us today, and the people working here behind us, it represents generations of families that were raised on these wages. So thank you so much for this important announcement, and thank you for being here today. Next up, I'd like to introduce another dear friend of mine and my neighbor from Delta, the Honorable Jill McKnight, Minister of Veteran Affairs, to say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today as we take an important step forward with the Port of Vancouver Gateway Strategy, a statement that reflects both who we are and where we are going as a country. I want to begin by acknowledging and thanking Tsawwassen First Nation for their leadership and stewardship of these lands and waters since time immemorial. The future we build together will be grounded in respecting Indigenous rights and engaging in meaningful consultation. In June 1970, Roberts Bank became a gateway between Canada and the growing possibilities of the Pacific. For more than 5 decades, this port has connected Canadian workers, businesses, and communities to markets around the world, helping to drive trade, support economic growth, and create prosperity for generations of Canadians. Today, we have a chance to catalyze the next era of growth, strengthen Canada's trade future, and ensure our country remains competitive in an increasingly connected global economy. Being a gateway is about more than moving goods. It's about creating opportunity. We are living through a period of significant change. Supply chains are evolving. Trade relationships are shifting. We did not choose today's specific trade environment. We are making choices that allow us to choose our future and to build our future for international trade. Around the world, demand is growing for Canadian products, expertise, and innovation. That is why we've set the ambitious goal of doubling Canadian exports to non-US markets over the next decade, strengthening Canada's economic resilience and expanding our reach in global markets. The countries and regions that invest in modern infrastructure, build strong partnerships, and plan for the future are the ones that will be best positioned for success. That's exactly what we are doing through the Port of Vancouver Gateway Strategy. This strategy is about ensuring that British Columbia and Delta can continue to build on its role as a hub for transportation, warehousing and distribution, supply chain operations, and international trade. It recognizes that trade infrastructure is not a single project, but an interconnected network that supports opportunity throughout the Lower Mainland and across Canada. This strategy is also about people. It's about creating thousands of well-paying jobs and high-value careers. It's about increasing export capacity, improving efficiency, attracting investment, and ensuring Canadian businesses can compete and grow in a rapidly changing world. Most importantly, it's about creating the conditions for future generations to succeed. I recognize that projects of this scale can generate passionate discussion. People care deeply about this community and the environment. Protecting the lands, waters, and ecosystems that make this region so special is not in competition with economic development, it's essential to it. Strong environmental outcomes Meaningful Indigenous partnerships and sustainable economic growth are not separate goals. They are connected. Each strengthens the other. As this work moves forward, that principle will continue to guide us. Previous generations had the foresight to build the infrastructure that underpins trade in Canada's economy today. Their decisions expanded prosperity, connected Canada to the world, and laid the foundation for decades of growth. Today, the responsibility rests with us. The Port of Vancouver Gateway Strategy is about looking beyond the challenges of today and preparing for the opportunities of tomorrow. It's about building stronger communities, a stronger economy, and a stronger Canada. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And now I'd like to invite Chief Laura Cassidy from the Tsawwassen First Nation.
Misip Kokwelam. Good morning, everyone. Thanks to today's organizers for respecting our community and our protocols by including us in today's events. I'm here because as Chief of Tsawwassen First Nation, I'm elected to represent my community when things happen that impact us. As a leader and elder, I am also a steward of this beautiful territory we meet on today, a territory in which we have deep connections and have had them for thousands of years. To say we are concerned about what happens here is an understatement. Today's announcement contemplates the Roberts Bank Terminal 2 as a project of national interest. While we understand the economic importance of the trade infrastructure in Canada, it is important to remember that this project is located in Tsawwassen First Nations traditional and treaty territory, and its impacts will be felt most directly by our nation. The benefits may be national, but the environment, cultural, and harvesting impacts fall most directly on Tsawwassen people and our constitutionally protected treaty rights. For Tsawwassen First Nation, Roberts Bank Terminal 2 is not a new conversation. We have spent decades at the table working to protect our lands, waters, treaty rights, and the interests of future generations. This project was approved subject to hundreds of enforceable conditions designed to protect Tsawwassen interests. Our consent to the project was based on this detailed work. Those commitments cannot be weakened or set aside in the name of efficiency or expediency. As Canada moves forward, our expectation is clear. Any designation or subsequent process must fully respect Tsawwassen First Nations treaty rights, uphold all existing approvals and conditions, and uphold the Crown's obligation to meaningfully consult and maintain our consent. We also expect discussions about projects of national significance to include meaningful opportunities for Tsawwassen's prosperity and nation building, not simply conversations about minimizing impacts. Projects of this scale should create lasting benefits and that strengthen Indigenous communities and empower future generations. Tsawwassen First Nation will engage constructively in any consultation process, as we always have, while remaining steadfast in our responsibility to protect our rights and our territory, our environment, and our people. Finally, I want to share regrets from Chief Wayne Sparrow of Musqueam, who is not able to make it today. Our nations have a deep connections, and he and I have been discussing how to align our interests and work together on this project. And I just want to say hi, Sepka. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank Thank you, Chief. Thank you for your leadership and stewardship. Next, I'd like to invite the Honourable Mike Farnworth, MLA for Port Coquitlam, and the Minister of Transportation.
Thank you, Minister MacKinnon, Minister McKnight, Chief Cassidy, and for everyone for being here today. It's a pleasure to be here on behalf of the provincial government, our Premier David Eby, to help support what we believe to be an incredibly important announcement, not only for British Columbia, but for Canada. As has been stated, the Vancouver Port is Canada's largest port. And we live at a time of incredible change globally, but also with our traditional trading links. We've seen supply chains disrupted. We are reevaluating our trading relationship with our partners. At the same time, the world is looking for reliable, strategic partners who have the resources that they need. British Columbia has those resources, Canada has those resources, and we are the reliable, stable partner that so many jurisdictions are looking forward to. In order to take advantage of the wealth that this nation has been blessed with, we need to have the infrastructure that allows us to make that happen. And which is why today's announcement is so important. Because the strategic investments, the nation-building investments that have been announced by the federal government, along with the investments that the province of British Columbia is currently making, are going to allow us to position British Columbia and Canada as the gateway to the Pacific, the Indo-Pacific, and the broader world to get our products to market, to stimulate economic growth that is going to create jobs for thousands of British Columbians, thousands of Canadians, diversify our economy at a time when I think all Canadians want to see that happen. But, as Chief Cassidy has said, we need to do it in a way that respects treaty rights of Indigenous First Nations, protects the environment, and ensures that we're doing the project the right way. Today's announcement ensures that that is going to happen. That's why, on behalf of the province of British Columbia, the Premier David Eby, I'm pleased to be here, and I congratulate the federal government on this announcement, because it's going to have a lot of benefits, not just for British Columbia, but for Canada, not just in the near term, but for the long term. And that's something that we all want. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And next, I'd like to welcome Peter Xotta, the President of the Port.
Okay, I think suffice to say, I'm pretty excited about what we're here to talk about today. I do want to thank MP Bains for the introduction, and it's wonderful to be here with you and our esteemed dignitaries here, Minister MacKinnon, Minister McKnight, Minister Farnworth, and I want to offer a special thanks to Chief Cassidy for her thoughtful remarks. The Port of Vancouver has a special relationship with Tsawwassen First Nation. Of course, we've worked with them for many years. And as a nation whose territory obviously is right in the smack in the middle of the activity that we're witnessing here today. I want to say, though, to Chief, from the bottom of my heart, on behalf of our organization, I want to thank you, your council, and your community for the partnership, for what you've taught us as an organization, and frankly, I think you've made us a better port. You have my word as the CEO of this organization that will continue in the partnership tradition that we've established, because it's core to how we are going to move forward and look forward with you and your community. Now, Minister MacKinnon, you said it. Prime Minister Carney's commitment to double Canadian exports to non-U.S. markets over the next decade is the right commitment and the right time for Canada, and I'm here to tell you that the Port of Vancouver is on track to support that objective. As Canada's largest port and its most cargo diverse, we know the Port of Vancouver and our partners will continue to play an outsized role in helping to deliver for Canadians at this critical moment in Canada's collective history. But trade ambition doesn't happen on its own. Trade grows when action is taken, and that's what we're here to announce today. Trade grows when infrastructure, the capacity, the partnerships are in place to move more of what Canadians make, mine, harvest, and grow. To move those products to customers around the world in traditional partnerships that we have with Japan, with China, with South Korea, but increasingly to Asian nations across the Indo-Pacific, whose region will account for 50% of global GDP by 2040. Just think about how many customers that is who want and need what Canadian farmers, miners, and manufacturers make. That's why today's announcement by the Government of Canada to advance the Port of Vancouver Gateway strategy is game-changing. And I'll say that again, it's game-changing for our customers, for our partners, for British Columbians, and for Canada, including advancing the RBT2 project through the Major Project Office for consideration as a project of national interest. I'm biased, I will say. The Roberts Bank Terminal 2 project is a nation-building project. A nation-building project that's going to unlock an additional $100 billion in annual trade capacity. A nation-building project that will create thousands of jobs across the supply chain. And a nation-building project, importantly, that's ready to go. And it's already had its environmental approvals and mutual benefit agreements in place with 27 First Nations. Just earlier this week, we announced that we've selected a construction partner to build the landmass and wharf. And we have an MOU in place with our gracious host today, Global Container Terminals, to explore a partnership on the future operation of the RBT2 project. Talk about momentum. What's more, this strategy is more than this transformational container terminal project. It's about building the trade network across our country that our country needs for future across the commodities. Land, as the Minister has said, marine, bulk, and rail infrastructure. It's all needed if we're going to step up as a country and rise to the occasion. To move more grain, minerals, forestry, and energy products. The Port of Vancouver Gateway strategy will unleash private sector investment, and importantly, it's going to help people and businesses across this country to continue to prosper. To be clear, we're not doing this alone. It's going to take a Team Canada approach, the Vancouver Fraser Port Authority team, and the many Port of Vancouver partners who make us great. Many of you are here today, terminal operators, members of the ILWU that are busy carrying on the activities here, railroaders, shipping lines, and all levels of government, and of course, our Indigenous partners. Because together we're going to rise to this occasion, to get big things done, to deliver for Canada safely, with care for the environment, and with respect for the communities. A job we take seriously, and that I can assure you we are up to this task. Thank you. Go Team Canada.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you for your leadership and your hard work and your team's work to get us to this point. It is an exciting day. I know how excited you are. That does conclude the formal program, and we will now begin the Q&A. Mary Justine is here with the mic, so you can any questions.
Hello everyone, Marie-Justine here, Press Secretary of Minister MacKinnon. So if you can just raise your hand if you have a question from media. Vous pouvez dire le nom de votre média, vous pouvez, et ensuite poser votre question. You can start with the name of your media, your name, and then it will be one question with follow-up. Thank you.
Hi, Georgie Smythe, CBC. This is for Chief Cassidy, but she's just disappeared. I can ask Peter Xotta, actually, since you're standing there. On the topic of major national projects, it looks like we're getting another major project just to the right of us here, a pipeline of a similar footprint as the terminal we're standing on. How do you see those two projects coexisting?
From my perspective, obviously the RBT2 project is much further along. There's lots of discussion to be undertaken with respect to the energy project that you're referring to, and we'll be working with the Major Project Office on the details around that. We don't have a lot as the Port Authority at this point.
Okay, and my follow-up then will be, obviously, as you've said, this project is pretty far along. It predates the Major Projects Office list as well by many years. Why put it on the list now?
I think the impetus for us is to move projects along that are going to be driving the national economy, and this one, as you pointed out, has been in the queue for some time. But it's really about us meeting the moment for Canada with respect to the range of commodities. That's why, in addition to the RBT2 project, we're talking about rail and bulk projects, which is really what drives the Canadian economy in many ways. Minister, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Bonjour, hi, Julie Landry, Radio-Canada. Donc, une question pour le ministre en français. Vous en avez parlé un peu presque des sacrifices pour la Colombie-Britannique. Vous avez dit, on vous en demande beaucoup. Est-ce que je peux vous entendre à ce sujet-là en français, s'il vous plaît?
Je n'ai pas dit sacrifice parce qu'il y a effectivement des bénéfices. Je vais parler de fardeau, par exemple, parce que, évidemment, l'activité économique, peu importe d'où on vient, doit cohabiter, coexister avec les terres, avec les eaux, avec les droits et avec la qualité de vie des gens. Donc, effectivement, ce réseau portuaire, parce que c'est un réseau portuaire ici sur la côte ouest, doit coexister avec des millions de citoyens. Ça fournit des opportunités, ça fournit de l'activité économique, ça fournit, au fond, le noyau de l'économie locale. Mais, en même temps, les gens doivent pouvoir profiter peut-être de façon disproportionnée de cette activité. Et donc, c'est pour ça qu'on s'est entendu avec le gouvernement de M. Eby, M. Farnworth, sur des grands projets comme le tunnel, qui font en sorte que la vie des gens ici devienne un peu tributaire de l'activité économique qui est créée ici aussi. Donc, c'est un peu ça que j'entendais.
Et ma deuxième question, il y a aussi une annonce peut-être imminente un jour d'un pipeline qui pourrait peut-être arriver ici. C'est un peu la même question, mais je la pose en français. Comment les deux projets coexistent? Qu'est-ce que ça change sur ce qui est annoncé aujourd'hui?
Ça ne change pas du tout ce qui est annoncé aujourd'hui. Et c'est pour ça nous voulions respecter, honorer le travail qui a été fait en amont. On parle de décennies, au-dessus d'une décennie, d'activités formelles. L'idée, l'embryon de l'idée remonte à 2-3 décennies. Et donc, aujourd'hui, quelles que soient les actions posées sur un oléoduc, ce projet existera avec et doit être respecté et suivre son cours propre à lui. Et je veux réitérer à quel point j'estime que c'est peut-être en termes d'infrastructure économique et en termes de possibilités pour cette région et pour notre pays, il s'agit peut-être de la plus importante annonce qu'on fera comme gouvernement.
Oui, prochaine question.
I'm Daryl Greer with the Canadian Press. Yes, you talked about future generations, but if this project that has been highly criticized by environmentalists for a long time, how would you explain to future generations that this project is, good for the economy, but perhaps bad for the environment, and it's the environment that they're growing up into that they might be more concerned about?
Well, what I would respond to them is that the best minds, the best thought, the best traditional knowledge. The chief talked eloquently about the work that has been done, the respect that has been demanded and I think given by the port. That has resulted in conditions, in practices, in the best possible set of proposed mitigations that it is possible to contemplate. Nowhere else on the planet do we take as much care and spend as much time considering how to balance economic activity and infrastructure with the incredible natural environment that we build it in. So what I would hope future generations would say is we have benefited for generations from the economy and the prosperity and the partnerships that these things have created, but we have also created a spot where we can live in paradise lost and create that kind of economic activity simultaneously. So we have spent many, many years getting to this point, and it is time to make a decision as a society. And I think that we've gotten to the point where we are able to present this incredible opportunity to the people of Canada and to the people of British Columbia as one that has met the kind of objectives that you're talking about.
I'm wondering if George Harvey is here from Delta. I wanted to talk also about port security. You know, the mayor of Delta has talked about the need for a reinstated port police in order to stem the flow of illegal guns, drugs, other illicit things. You know, that might not be on your agenda today, but that's certainly been on his. What plans for increased port security would coincide with this expansion if it goes ahead?
Well, they are separate issues, as you just said. But indeed, as society evolves, as the world evolves, security challenges pop up. I can assure you that other ports in other places deal with those kinds of issues as well. I am in constant dialogue with my colleagues in the government about port security issues, and I can assure you that the Government of Canada spends an enormous amount of time making sure we keep up with the evolving security issues that present themselves to us. I'm not. You're talking about the mayor? Yeah. Look, I don't think prolonged discussions over what institution. We have one of the world's best police forces. They're in charge of port security. They work with their partners. They work with the province. They work with municipal authorities, and work across the federal government. We'll keep working on the challenge. I think that's what the mayor would like us to do.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you. Prochaine question. Next questions. Just want to make sure everyone has a chance to ask a question. More question. Yes, another one.
Thanks, Georgie from CBC again. Just curious about the process of potential listing of the project under the Building Canada Act, and the difference between the strategy being referred to the MPO. Has it happened? Is it happening? What does that mean?
Thank you, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to clarify that, because I do understand that it is bewildering, and many of these processes are new, and so it's important to explain them carefully. First of all, the potential listing is subject to ongoing conversations and consultations with our First Nations partners, the chief, her community, the Musqueam, and other affected or potentially affected Indigenous nations. So that is the process that we're starting today. It's a time-defined process, and just like the projects that I referred to earlier that we announced in Yellowknife a few weeks ago, that process starts today. The larger strategy about the gateway. So what does that really mean to people who live here? That means rail bottlenecks. That means more modern port facilities, expanded capacity for throughput for prairie producers, miners, what have you. That is a very complicated piece of work of interconnected pieces, protecting the environment all the way through. So we've asked the Major Projects Office to undertake the work that is needed to scope that project. It is akin to the high-speed rail project. So we have referred high-speed rail to the Major Projects Office as a strategy for Canada. This is both equivalent in terms of importance and equivalent in terms of the process that we're following. So that is, I hope, a better explanation, or at least a more layperson's explanation of what we're announcing here today. Then does that fully answer your question? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. D'accord. Merci, Madame Landry. Donc, ce que nous annonçons aujourd'hui, c'est la désignation potentielle du projet du terminal. Et ça enclenche un processus défini de discussion et de dialogue avec les Premières Nations. qui mène à une décision. C'est exactement le même processus que nous avons annoncé à Yellowknife il y a quelques semaines pour d'autres projets. Pour ce qui est de la stratégie pour la porte d'entrée, ça englobe non seulement le terminal dont on discute, mais des installations portuaires de façon plus générale et tout ce qui est ferroviaire et les embouteillages et tout ça que les gens savent qui existent dans cette région, ainsi que les protections environnementales qui s'imposent sur l'ensemble de l'œuvre. Et donc, comme le train à grande vitesse, il s'agit d'une stratégie qui doit être développée. C'est pour ça qu'on demande au bureau de projet majeur d'entamer le travail qui est complémentaire, supplémentaire, si tu veux, au seul projet que nous annonçons et que nous avançons aujourd'hui.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. I don't see any more questions. Ceci met fin à la période de questions. This puts an end to the question period. Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you for being here.